I'm standing on the grounds of the former Thompson Orphanage in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is partly a story about this orphanage, but it's a broader story. It's a story about the child welfare and child protection system in the United States, both historically and today. We, who are parents, know only too well how hard it is to rear children. Children do crazy things. It takes enormous amounts of money, emotional energy, all kinds of resources to rear something as complex as a human being. But what happens when that family unit cannot provide that nurture? Because of death or another tragedy, or because of lack of money, or maybe addiction? What does society do?
Mom got sick. She had got tuberculosis back in them days. She had to go to the hospital, and then we started, we went to a few foster homes and till she got out, and then
she couldn't really take care of us then.
Yeah.
And Daddy left home.
Yeah, and Dad left, and after she got out of the hospital, out there, Dad, he was a bad alcoholic. He just left and never came back.
Both my parents were deaf, and my daddy was killed when he was 42 by a train wreck, very much to his handicap. My mother had a nervous breakdown.
Both our parents died, not the same day, but they died, and our aunts took us for a while, but they had their own families, and then, because I was 10 years old, so I don't, anyway, they arranged it to have us come to Charlotte.
The most tragic consequence of parental malfunction is child abuse. Look at this boy's back. Emotional abuse. Beaten in the face. In the 1600s and 1700s in America, the way to deal with orphaned children or half-orphans or financially destitute children was to make them indentured servants. They'd work for a specific period of time, no pay, just upkeep. Most were farmhands or domestic servants. About 1800, they started sending endangered children to almshouses or poorhouses, but there was a problem. These children had to live side by side with criminals, elderly, insane people. So about 1830, orphanages began to become the principal solution. The idea was that you could place children in these institutions separate from everyone else, and they would be safe. And orphanages flourished, at least in some parts of the country. The South, however, lagged behind in the creation of orphanages. But the Civil War changed that. So many fathers were killed. So many were emotionally shattered that there was no doubt that something had to be done to improve the overall situation for endangered children. The cities of the South, like Charleston, South Carolina, were ravaged, and even in a place like Charlotte, there were plenty of orphans, plenty of disadvantaged children wandering the streets. The man who was responsible for beginning the whole process was Benjamin S. Bronson. He was from Maine. He came to Charlotte from Bertie County in 1867 to be the priest at St. Peter's Episcopal Church, and he believed that indeed Christians should reach out to the community as a whole. He was a visionary, a dreamer, and he contacted the widow of a very wealthy cotton farmer that he had known, Lewis Thompson in Bertie County, and asked her to give him the money to establish a school for boys along the banks of Little Sugar Creek, just outside Charlotte. The school did indeed come into existence. It opened in 1869 in an imposing building. Bronson was an idea man, not an administrator, and the school closed in 1873, and Bronson left Charlotte in 1878. The building sat empty, but Bronson had another dream, Orphanage, and he knew just the man to bring it about, Edwin Augustus Osborne. He had known Osborne at St. Peter's Episcopal Church. He had mentored him there. So Bronson, who wanted an orphanage, decided that he would donate the land to the Episcopal Church on two conditions. First, Osborne had to be the superintendent. Secondly, it had to be named for Lewis Thompson, so it would be Thompson Orphanage. Osborne was a tenacious man. Born in Alabama, his family moved to Arkansas and then to Texas, Hill County, Texas. In the late 1850s, Osborne walked, yes, I said walked, from Texas to North Carolina to go to the Statesville Military Academy. In 1861, he enrolled in the 4th North Carolina Regiment of the Confederate Army and served throughout the war in many major battles. He was wounded several times, once losing 2 fingers on his right hand. After the war, Osborne, always a fighter, returned to Mecklenburg County and studied for the law, became a lawyer, was appointed clerk of Superior Court in Mecklenburg County in 1867 and served for 10 years. But that wasn't all this remarkable man did. In 1874, he joined the Episcopal Church, studied under Benjamin Bronson, became a priest in 1877. He served several congregations in western North Carolina, including Calvary Church in Fletcher, came back to Mecklenburg County, was the minister at St. Mark's in northern Mecklenburg, St. Paul's in Monroe, and even established the first African American Episcopal congregation in Charlotte, St. Michael's in All Angels. He took the job of being superintendent seriously. He knew his primary task was to raise money. He traveled all across North Carolina, day and night, going to Episcopal churches, asking for money. Here, there, the mountains, the coast, wherever, and he was successful. He raised the money. And Thompson Orphanage opened in May 1887, initially serving 10 children. He remained the superintendent until the Spanish-American War in 1898, when he served as a chaplain in the United States Army. The most tangible physical reminder of Osborne at Thompson Orphanage is the magnificent Gothic Revival style chapel, the memorial chapel for St. Mary the Virgin, which is still on East 4th Street.